Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. Today we're taking a deep dive into the world of addiction, recovery, the role childhood trauma has in addiction, and where neuroplasticity fits into it all. Joining me for this conversation is one of the top experts in the field, Dr. Robb Kelly. Dr. Kelly, PhD, is a highly credentialed, globally recognized recovery expert who goes beyond treating the symptoms to target the root causes of addiction. He's appeared on shows like The Doctors, Eye Opener, Good Morning Texas, and he's hosted the Sober Celebs show on KLIF Radio in Dallas. He's a frequent contributor to The Jim Bohannon Show, Miracles in Recovery, USA Today. He's lectured on addiction and trauma just about everywhere, and he's the founder and CEO of the Robb Kelly Recovery Group, an addiction and mental illness recovery coaching company. Dr. Robb, I found your work while I was doing some research for my podcast, and I was immediately drawn to your story because, like most people, I've had to deal with addiction and recovery in my family. I've lost people to addiction that I've known and grown up with. And I have listeners and people in the Facebook group that I know are actively dealing with it today, whether it's a spouse or a child on various points in their journey of addiction and recovery. So thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to share your information and your experiences with everyone.
Of course, Marianne. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a great podcast. Guys, sit down and listen. It's going to be good.
It's going to be fabulous. Listen, my tagline for the show, which I think is true for many of us, is that life is messy and it's complicated and it's unpredictable, but it's beautiful all at the same time. And when I saw your story and I saw your journey, I thought, gosh, this guy could be a testament. He could be a poster board for that tagline. So let's bring the listeners up to speed a little bit on some of the pivotal points in your backstory. So I think, tell me if I've got some of these, I'll bullet a couple of things and then we'll dig deep. But around 9-ish, you started drinking, which some might gasp at, but that was the culture where you came from, right?
100%. And I remember as if it was yesterday. It was on stage in Liverpool because I played with my auntie and uncle. I come from a musical family, so at the age of 9, I'm playing bass guitar on stage, and the crowd was bigger than expected. And we back in the day, we did 2 45-minute spots. Went on for the first one, came off for 20 minutes, went back and finished it off. And during the break, I was so nervous and scared. My uncle gave me a beer and said, "Just drink this." No, it's only that much. I drank it, and the whole world changed right there and then for me.
So that was the start of it, but then it progressed pretty quickly, didn't it? By teenage years, you would say you were a heavy drinker.
Yeah, I was drinking every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and then going into late teens, probably 4 or 5 nights a week. Still not a problem.
Well, sure, in your mind.
I was homeless for 14 months, still not a problem. I mean, it's how it works. But with the knowledge we have today, we understand why. But yeah, just drinking. I absolutely adored it.
And then by the 20s, early 20s, you would consider yourself a full-fledged alcoholic.
Well, looking back, definitely 100%. But at the time,
no,
I couldn't see it. So when you're walking around the yard or the garden at 5:30 in the morning, taking your first hit of vodka from half a bottle of vodka, and you think everything's good, then that's pure insanity. And everyone else is begging me to stop drinking. And I'm like, my success in everything that I did back then masked my alcoholism because we had the house, we had the brand new Mercedes every year, and we had money. So I got away with it for a long time.
I think that's the story for a lot of people. Take us to that time. So you're successful. You had some successful careers early on. You sort of got the dream. You had the house, the gorgeous house. You had a young family. You know, you're married, you're in love with your wife, you have a young child, maybe 2. You had 2, I think, at the time. Yeah. And I would say we're living pretty high on paper, and then it all comes crashing down. Tell us a little bit about that crash.
So it all came down to this. So I'm not sure I can say this on your podcast, but I stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish a bottle of vodka. I fled to Spain. I stayed there for 3 months until all charges were dropped because she was fine after, And I came back home. And when I got home, she had all the bags packed. And she says, I'm leaving you. I'm going to my mum's. And off she went with my 2 little girls, ages 1 and 3-ish. Guys, I got bad, might be 2 or 4. I can't recall. So I got on my attorney that afternoon and told him, I've been sober for 4 days now, told him that I need my children back. And he went to court next morning and he somehow went to the house, took the kids back by court order. And it's the back in the day when you could have one-on-ones with judges. And the next day he brought my children back. I opened the door, I paid him a lot of money. I sat there, I had 2 children in front of the TV, and I went into the kitchen and I was so proud that I got my children back. And then the thought hit my head, wouldn't it be just great to have one drink before, celebrate my kid? Just one drink, nothing else. I mean, God, it's a beer, for goodness sake. So 2 days later or 3 days later, I can't remember, police kicked the door down. The children had not been fed or changed diapers for 2 days. I nearly killed them. The authorities were there. The child protection was there. The police were there. My wife was there. Her mother was there. And they took my children off me and served me with the unfit father papers. And as I stumbled to the door and watched them, my mother-in-law had my youngest and my wife had my eldest. So she's walking down the path like this, holding mummy's hand. And she said 3 things to me. Says, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. And halfway down the path, she turned around again and said, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. And as they got to the gate, wrought iron gate, they opened it and she turned around one more time and she says, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking.
Wow.
2 or 3 weeks after that, I've lost the kids, lost the wife, lost the house, the cars had gone, my business went bump and I was on the streets.
Wow.
I remember the first night in the streets as well. I sat there, it was pouring down with rain, it was freezing. I had a t-shirt on and a jacket, I think, a pair of trousers, pants and sneakers. And the first thought that hit my head is where the hell did that just go wrong? And I still didn't think I had a drink problem when I was sat on the streets. Just thought, well, it's unfortunate, going through bad news. I'll be back tomorrow. Everything will be okay. That tomorrow lasted 14 months where nobody would speak to me. If I turned up at the house, either my house or my mum's house, they would call the police immediately and they would lock me up overnight. So I was literally abandoned on the streets, begging, hurting people for money, stealing alcohol. If truth be known, I got quite comfortable on the streets. 7 suicide attempts, and on 2 occasions it worked. I was dead, and they brought me back to life. And I absolutely hated them men for that, Marion. I hated that they brought me back into this world again. And, that was it. That was my life.
You said something that struck me. People who are dealing with someone in their life that has addiction, I know a lot of people take it to heart and haven't learned yet that they can't make the choice. And you said, your daughter said those things as she was leaving. And yet the first thing that came to my mind to say was, and it wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to get you to realize you had a problem, because you said, I still didn't think I had a problem. That what we would say is crazy, that craziness that's going on, right? You stab your wife, they're taking your kids away, you've lost your home, you're in the streets, and yet you didn't get it yet. It's almost comical, and I'm laughing with you, but the situation to someone that hasn't been in it, it's almost comical that how could you not realize it?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that is pretty common. It's pretty typical to not realize you had a problem, sometimes even when you lose everything.
Yeah.
And for your friends and your family and your loved ones, it's really hard to understand why you can't see the problem or why you're making the quote unquote choice to stay in it.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to something that you said. Something drove you. You had a thought that drove you to want to have a drink, to have a beer, to celebrate that you got your kids back. I've heard you say before that it's a mental obsession. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think getting a better understanding of how much of an obsession it really is will help people understand just a little bit why it defies logic, why you keep repeating the patterns, why an addict keeps repeating these same patterns. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So when I got well and came off the streets, just about scraped off the streets. I was angry at my medical doctors. I was angry at the world because nobody could tell me why I put alcohol in front of everything else.
Yeah.
Nobody could tell me, and nobody understood. And I so mad at the world. It's like, why don't we understand what's going on here? So when I got in a one-bedroom apartment. I got my psychology license back, and I started delving in what's going on here because nobody knew. The mental obsession is this. So in alcoholics are born and drug addicts are made. Alcoholics have a predisposition, which is one of the things from the predisposition is passed down from generation. You can't pass heart disease down or any other disease. That's a methylation problem with the food. It's not an organic problem like alcoholism is. So in layman's terms, there's three parts of the brain: hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and the amygdala that we specialize on because that's the three parts of the brain that increase the addiction and are automatic for the alcoholic. So let's say the hypothalamus, for instance, it's the survival part of our brain. It tells human beings that you must drink water and eat food to survive from birth. See the babies with the hand down the throat or the tummies needs to eat. Everybody knows that. It's ingrained. If you don't eat, you will die. That's it. I'm of everything. You don't have to think about it. What happens with the alcoholic is what we found with our trials, tests, and research is the hypothalamus at some point of the alcoholic's drinking career, not heavy drinkers, big line between heavy drinkers, abusers, and alcoholism. But with alcoholics, the hypothalamus turns around and tells the alcoholic to drink alcohol only. This is why I could go days or weeks without food or water. Well, that made sense to me when that part of my brain is telling me the only way you're going to survive is to drink alcohol all the time, 24 hours a day. That's what I'm going to do. So the choices are taken away. So that's what they call, especially in 12-step rooms, as the mental obsession, where it is insanity. It's insanity. And if you've been where I've been, guys, you'll identify that when we steal or buy a bottle of vodka, the handle part, when we're halfway down, we're worrying where we're going to get the next one from. That's not normal. When you're hurting people and the only thing that your brain's saying to, that's not normal. So we have to look at it's pure insanity. Now, there is no cure for alcoholism, but there's no cure for the common cold or food poisoning. But I have a few things I do to make sure I never drink again. I don't tag myself as an alcoholic today because I'm not powerless over that stuff anymore. I used to be, So I stay grounded with God. I stay grounded with myself. I have people around me to make sure that I never go to that place where the mental obsession will kick in again. I have real people around me. It's very important, this guys, people around you. It's so important to your life and lifestyle. So whether you want to be a billionaire or the best dad in the world, because money will never make you happy, believe me, you'll reflect the people around you. So if one of your friends has a silly saying like "shut up" or "shut that door," you'll pick that up after a few weeks. Yeah. So if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So you have to stay in that place where you have people around you that are always validating you and approving you, and it's nothing to do with ego. Be careful with that one. Or watch your ego. Shut up. My ego went when they took my children off me. So surround yourself with great people, and they will. I always remember the Paramount Studios. I was doing an episode of The Doctors, I think, and I'd been picked up from the airport. Private chauffeur. We gets down. We're doing the show. It's a great show. People are loving what I'm saying. Now I came off with this high, and I came off and I shouted across the room, "Where's my chauffeur?" to get into the airport. And my wife, who's a beautiful woman, but very quiet, she walked up to me and she looked me in the eyes and she said, "If you ever say that ever again, we're done." And she kind of slapped me a little bit. "It's not your chauffeur. You are lucky and blessed to be here." So I have people around me to keep you grounded.
Yeah. Tell me, do you think that mental obsession is true for all addictions?
Yes.
Okay.
Not to the state as the alcoholism from the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is not involved in any other addiction. It's the addictive personality. So how do we know? 90% of our people that come here with a staunch heroin addiction started in the doctor's office. 90%. And we're almost up to 9,000 patients now. So there's a common theme there. Most people on cocaine started with Adderall in the doctor's office. So we see that when people get well from a drug addiction and alcoholism, we're geniuses. I've never seen a stupid alcoholic. If you look at most industries now that are pretty big, they have addictive personalities. but they don't drink alcohol or take drugs. This is what we specialize in. We specialize in taking you from that lonely, dark place into an entrepreneur or the best father or whatever it is that you want to be. Because when you study the mind and the brain and the central nervous system, you really realize that the law of attraction is not what you think it is.
I've heard you say that everyone has an addiction. So when I hear you say, these mental obsessions, and I hear the distinction that it's different for alcohol, but that it's virtually the same for all the other addictions. And honestly, the thing that's going through my head, and I have a lot of people in my community that battle obesity and trying to lose weight. And I've had my own struggles there. And the mental obsession, I can relate to it on that level, because sure, it's not exactly the same, but that thought of always thinking about the next thing, always trying to battle that inner voice, it really is the same across addictions.
Yes, I mean, people don't think it is, especially food. Now, I've just lost 157 pounds.
Wow, congratulations.
Over the last 18 months, I was 350 something, and now I'm down to probably 200. But I used the same thing for the weight loss as I did for my addiction. That you've got to introduce the basal ganglia, very important part of the brain. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, people don't realize that at a certain point, even with addiction, you do not have a choice. Now, it's not as powerful as the hypothalamus with the alcoholic. So what happens? The basal ganglia is a repetition, strengthen, confirms part of the brain. So let's say a pilot needs 10,000 hours in the air. Them time, that's like a clock face. All them hours add up. Now he can fly the plane, don't even think about it. It's second nature. Even with driving, it's the same. It's round and round and round, which is good. If you're trying to learn something like driving or schoolwork, or you want to become a doctor, it's great. Doctor, it's great. What it isn't great for is with the addictive personality, the bad habits getting there. And once you've been around that for bad habits, and here's the point, guys, it becomes a working part of the mind. Now we're done. We really are, unless we go to proper treatment. Now, we know a lot of treatment centers that are amazing. Thank you guys for what you do. But we know 95% are just want your money. So you go into a treatment center, you come out with nothing. You relapse on the way home, you keep eating, whatever it is, sex addict. There's no treatment there for the real, foodie, sex, porn, alcohol, drug addict. There's no real help there, apart from a few, which are amazing. So you've got to be real careful. But yeah, it's the same deal as there's no difference between gambling, sex, weight loss, food addiction, than heroin. If you could believe, there's no difference when it comes to this. There's no difference. Now, 90% of that is childhood trauma. So what we find with people that overeat is a typical normal person that can't stop, weighs 400 pounds, can't stop eating. Is you go back and there was lack of food in their childhood. Then where there was food, there were 6 kids. So you had to get in there first and eat as much as you can. Boom. So what does the brain tell us? We have to eat as much as we can, whenever we can, as much as we can. But that's a subconscious thing. So we don't know this is happening because it's subconscious. We're just coming as much as we can from the conscious brain. So when all this is back there and you wonder why you can't do something here, it's because of the childhood trauma here.
I wanted to dig into that because I've heard you say that childhood trauma is the gateway drug, and that...
You've done your homework.
Oh, I have done my homework. I do my homework. Thank you for noticing. And that we all have childhood trauma. And I think the thing that would surprise most people, and I want you to hopefully give us a few examples, is some of us maybe had what we would call, normal, quote unquote. There's not really a normal, but average lives. We don't have anything that stands out. We weren't abused. We didn't get physically, mentally abused or whatever. And so I think there's examples of childhood trauma that may be surprising to people. Can you help me with that? Give me a couple examples that may seem minimal, but...
Of course, yeah. I mean, the minimal ones are the worst because we don't think anything of it. We think it's the norm. So my mum and dad used to drop me off at a friend of theirs' house on a Friday night, and we'd have to stay overnight because mum and dad were out drinking. They'd want to lay in the morning with a hangover. But when they dropped us off, I don't know, I was probably 6, 7, 8, I don't know, 9. But when they dropped us off, as soon as the car pulled out the driveway, we played the run around naked game. I thought that was a real game. I didn't know that was child abuse. But for many years, even during my bodybuilding era, I still would not take my top off anywhere. At a swimming pool, in a sunny day, and that's one of the reasons why. So when you put that together, you go, oh my God. So everybody has a childhood trauma, everybody. Now, oh, I'm rich. We grew up with everything. Yeah, I know. But when did you see your dad? Oh, I see him on Wednesday. True story. See him on Wednesday between 2 and 4. Why? It's always away. There's the abandonment right away.
Mm.
Babies are born with two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. The rest are man-made. It's the same with childhood trauma. What we think is the norm, like let's say a girl grows up in a dysfunction alcoholic house. She's 6, 7, 8. She grows up old, and she grows up watching dad several times a week coming home drunk and getting into a fist fight with mom. That becomes normal to her. Now, this is what happened. And we've traced everything I say on here, guys, is tested, tried, researched time and time again. So when she leaves the house, when she goes to college or becomes a teenager or 20, she'll attract the same guy that ends up beating her and drinking too much alcohol or taking too many drugs. Why? Because that's the norm. To the extent that if she accidentally met, because we attract what we think we are worth, absolutely met a great guy and took care of her, she will self-sabotage that relationship subconsciously because she doesn't think she's worthy. So believe me when I say everybody has childhood trauma. The only difference, or the big difference, is alcoholics and addicts are more sensitive to trauma. So me and my brother on the kitchen table, true story, when we were 9, 10, I don't know, and my mom walks in. And she says, Marianne, this is what she says. Okay, she says, will you guys get down off that table, stupid idiots? Get down before your father gets in. My brother jumps down and I freeze. Why do I freeze? This is what I've heard. Get out of the table, you stupid idiot. That's what I've heard. So when I tell people that certain people with trauma hear things differently, and especially alcoholics and addicts, they go, oh my God, that's why my husband, my child, da, da, da. We hear things differently because our mind is always on that alert, always like a bird on a hot wire. We're always on that, fight or flight all the time. If a noise goes on behind me, I jump. My friend doesn't jump. What's wrong with you? It's a glass dropped on the floor because I was always on that. And that was my childhood trauma.
You know what clicked for me when I heard you say that, because I've heard you say that before, was you were not yet an active alcoholic, but you had that brain thing, yes, difference, deviation. I don't know the right word. So it clicked for me because I do know somebody like that in my life. And it's interesting how people have different experiences of the same situation. And often we're trying to rack our brain around, well, why did they take that away from that? Like, how did that happen?
Yes.
And that actually clicked for me that, there's something there.
Yes.
Even though 5 people could have witnessed it and not thought the same thing as that one person.
It just so happens that my brother is not an alcoholic, but I am. So that is what got us thinking, or me thinking when I was doing my research, is what is that about? And through all our research with the brain, central nervous system, the mind, we come to 2 conclusions. Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. And the second one is anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse. Is child abuse. During my studies for my PhD, I have 2 PhD, behavioral science and psychology. I was sent to the local zoo for a year. I hated my professor for that, for a year, to watch the apes and the monkeys and the gorillas for a year. And you really see the behavior. Now, I know we can't do that today, guys. Everyone has to have jobs, mortgages, all that stuff. I get that, but spend as much time with your children. Try not to get annoyed with your kids. Try and teach, try and nurture, try and point at all this great time when you're with them, because we don't have time. That time frame will go past so quick. You need to nurture, you need to be with them whenever you can, guys, because you're going to regret that. You see, my daughter got in contact with me 4 years ago after 30 years of her not wanting to speak to me. 30 years. And I was talking to her when we flew over there, and I said to her, well, I provided, the latest Mercedes and the big hat. We built a playroom on the back of the house for you guys. When we dropped off, all the other parents were jealous because we had the latest Mercedes. And she said, Dad, I don't remember all that. Yeah. I just remember you being drunk and not there.
Yeah.
That broke my heart. So I go into research over that. I still research stuff today. I have the alcoholic mentality. I'm either all in with something or all out. Now, I know everything there is to know pertaining to the neuroscience behind addiction and alcoholism today. I class myself as the best in the world, what I do. My figures and numbers will back that up. I can't fix a spark plug. I can't paint a wall. I can't do what other guys do. If there's a plug in my house, an outlet needs fixing, I can't do it. I call somebody who can. So I'm not sitting and go, look at me, I can do everything. No, to the contrary, I'm good at this because it affected me so much.
It moved you so much. And now you've moved through it all with such curiosity that you've just brought all of this information together. It's probably one of your greatest gifts on the other side of the mess. I often say our mess becomes our message.
Yes.
I want to go back. I want to take a step back to your timeline. So we talked about how you went through that period of homelessness, and through an unexpected encounter with a stranger, you get, linked up with AA and religion, and, you start on that path to recovery. What I want to know is, why do you think it was different that time? Why did you quit? What was the switch?
The switch was this. I had a huge spiritual awakening on the streets. So I was on the streets for 14 months, been through all the hell. I didn't go to hell when I was on the streets, but you know something, Marianne, I could sure see it from where I was. Make no mistake about that. So 2 o'clock in the morning around the buildings and offices, I'm walking. It's early hours of the morning. There's not a soul in sight. And I dropped down to my hands and knees and I started to cry like a baby. Now, this is when it gets real interesting. I wasn't crying because I'd lost all my kids and my house. I was crying because the first time in my life, I realized right there that I couldn't stop drinking. I looked up to the sky in the pouring rain and I said, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner, missed his last bus home from a Bible study. He's been walking an hour, decides to take a shortcut that he thinks is a shortcut for the first time ever, came upon me. He says, hey, do you need help? And I told him I was an alcoholic. He said, I'm an alcoholic in recovery. I'm a Christian. He took me back to his house. I shaved and dressed for the first time in 14 months, properly clean. And he said to me, you can stay here as long as you like, Rob, but you've got to come to these AA meetings with me. I hated them meetings, man. I hated them, but I went. During the meeting, this guy said, my name's John, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I looked at Derek and I said, what did he just say? And he said he's recovered. Well, I knew from my Oxford days, recovery means to gain one's health and state of mind back. It doesn't mean cure. So after the meeting, I went over to him and said, hey, John, my name's Rob. Will you sponsor me? And he said, no. But just before the ground opened up and swallowed me out of embarrassment and shame, he said, I will be your spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks, which I thought was weird. Every Wednesday, I left Derek's at 6. I got there for 7. I stayed till 8 and I walked home for 9. When I got there 10 till, I wasn't allowed to go up to his apartment on the second floor. I had to wait. 1 minute till I'd walk up. He there greeting me. Come in. Great to see you. We talk about God. We talk about philosophy. We'll talk about disease. We'll talk about mind. It was just, and at 1 minute to 8, mid-conversation, he'd get up and he'd walk me out. Which I didn't think at the time was like pretty weird, but I did it. 12 weeks after that, I knew that I had, as long as I do this stuff, things are going to happen. People are going to get well. And he said to me, hey, Rob, just before I went on the 12th night, he said, hey, Rob, your life will change from tomorrow. Beware, be careful, be ready. And I said, John, God bless you. I love you for everything you've done for me, John, but I live in Derek's basement on a blow-up mattress. Nobody knows I'm there. And he smiled and he patted me on the back and I was on my way. The next day I'm cleaning the house because that's my job while Derek's at work. Derek comes on at lunchtime. He goes, hey, Rob, the guy that sweeps the floor part-time, he's just left. You want a part-time job sweeping the floor? Never thought of John. Yeah, of course I do. Oh my God. So I gets there within a week with my personality, turns into a full-time job. So when I get my pay packet, like 2 weeks after, I go to the gas station, I bought John a card and a little teddy bear. Marianne, it was this big. That's all it was. And I walked back to John's and I got there and the curtains looked dirty. And I'm like, John, you could have washed the curtains. Knocked on the door, no answer. I knocked on that hard, but the right-hand person came out of the right-hand apartment. Said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, is John in? Has he moved anywhere? And she said, John who? I said, John, the guy. He's, your neighbor. And she said, I've only been here 3 months. There's been nobody in that apartment in the 3 months I've been here. So obviously she was drunk or something. So I let her close the door. Went around to the left and knocked on this guy's door a little bit heavier, and he answered the door. Big guy, what do you want? Where's John moved to? John who? I said, John, your neighbour, the guy, you must have seen him. He went on to tell me that apartment is derelict, and if you walked into that front door, you'd drop down to the basement, and you'd probably die. There used to be all, red tape across it saying you can't go in. It's been like that for a year. And I thought, I've got I knew I had the right place. I knew. So I thought, well, I'll tell you what, these guys must be crazy. I'll just go around to the meeting where I met John. So sure enough, I did. And when I walked in, the chairman was like, "Hey, Robert, how do you? Thank God for that. I'm not going crazy. Does John still come here?" And he said, "John who?" And I said, "John, over near the coffee machine. We're talking, sponsoring." And he said, and I quote, after all these years, "Rob, you was at the coffee machine speaking to yourself. We thought you were praying. Never found that man, Maria. When I got a little bit wealthy, I hired the best detective company in Manchester to trace him, and nobody's ever traced him. And what he taught me is 90% of my work today."
I've heard you tell that story because, as you said, I've done my research. I didn't know you hired a detective to try to find him.
Yes.
I have to say this out loud because I know my audience will be thinking this. And you've heard this before. Critics or people judging are going to say, "This guy's crazy. What do you mean there was a made up guy that he could never find that wasn't real?" What do you say to that?
Look at my work, first of all. It is humanly impossible to get to where I'm from where I was. It's humanly impossible. You can't do it. So I would tell that story for 15 years because of that exact thing you're talking about. And then I realized one day who I am and why I'm here. And I realized that John was an angel. And I realized that the work I got from me saving hundreds, and if you look at the TV and all that stuff, probably millions of people's lives, and that I accepted that. And I don't hide that story anymore. There is hundreds of stories how I should have died, even last year, and the year before, and I just so many times that I haven't, and that people are getting well. And so many things happened, it's just crazy how I got to America and stuff like that. So I say it was my awakening to find my identity. And if you think I'm crazy, thank you for your opinion. But look at my work. And look how many people we saved and all that stuff. It's just amazing. Because I believe in God. I don't believe in a church God. I don't do Bible stuff. I just have God, who is some kind of spirit that connects with my mind, which is spirit. So when this is some of the research we did, when my mind, which is energy, connects with another energy outside me, okay, and I have a change of neural pathways, which is the work we do, my DNA change. Now, how the hell do we know all this stuff if it wasn't meant to be? We've done research that people still don't believe. But when you look at the 98% success rate over 30 years and 9,000 patients, when you look at we're the only company in the world that offers a money back guarantee, if you relapse after being with us while still following our program, we'll refund your money. Nobody in the world does that. And we are who we are. There's two kinds of people in this world. There's the people that love you for who you are, and there's the people that want to be you. And that's all I found, and the people that want to be you will always be the haters in your life. Golden rule is, guys, everybody has haters. The more higher you get and more public, obviously, the more haters you are. But I've noticed this, that anybody doing as good as me or better will never criticize or never misbelieve what I say. It's the people that are still down there trying to criticize them feel better.
Well, and ultimately what I decided was it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately, how you came about, what you came about, it probably matters to you. It's personal, but to the rest of us and the rest of the world that you're now helping, who cares? Because you've got the knowledge, right? You've got the knowledge and you're bringing it forward and you've made this your life passion. So, I mean, I don't care if the monkey in the zoo gave you that when you were studying them, right? You've got it.
When I realize that going on, it's like nobody really cares. We think they do, but nobody really cares about me or anybody else. They've got their own problems going on. So you think that I do this, that nobody cares, really. Nobody cares, really. So get on with your life. Find your identity. Don't care what people think about you. You know how many times I've been told you can't do that, Rob? I mean, I've lost count after about 5,000. And my answer is always the same. Says who? We deal with alcoholics, addicts, PTSD, depression, child trauma, entrepreneurs who want to better themselves, senior managers, CEOs, workers, mechanics. We work with all them people because what we found, it's not about the alcohol and drugs. So what's it about? It's about connecting part of the brain and rewiring the brain and repatterning the behavior that you have. And most people go, well, I don't really have a pattern of behavior. You do, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So if you've been out to the seaside or with a bunch of work guys and you get to the venue, you have a few drinks, everything's great. You get back on the bus. Which seat do you sit in? 9 out of 10 times, the seat that you even. If anybody sat there, you go, hey, that's my seat.
Yeah.
There's a pattern. Most of them are subconscious. You don't know, but you have to break out of that pattern. Once again, behavior and basal ganglia. If you've got a Get away from that pattern that you don't see and recreate another pattern. And everything you want to achieve is 100% possible unless you have brain damage. And everything you want to be, you want to get your kids back, you want to buy a brand new car, it's all here now. You see, people don't believe in the real law of attraction.
Yeah.
They think, well, if I visualize it, that's not the law. What the law of attraction is this. You sat in my house. I give you the remote control. I go, hey, the NFL game is tonight. It's on channel 30. Brilliant. 3, 0, go. There's the NFL. My friend will sit there and think about nothing else, about the NFL. He's there. He feels as if he's in the stadium. He's so enthralled with this thing on TV that it makes him feel good, or he'll cry if it's sad, or if it's too. Yeah, that's him. Channel 30. Concentrating. Everything you've got is real. It's there. It's live. Now you give that remote control to your kid, and he flicks through 30 channels in a minute. You got channel there, channel there, channel there, and you can't concentrate on anything because there's so many things and so many noise. You know there's 3,000 channels out there, but like you're on channel 30, there are other channels, but 30 is your channel. But while he's flipping through the both, you're never going to get that feeling of being there, as if it's live, as if you are in the now, while your kid's got the remote control. So get the remote control, guys, vigorously. Put it on channel 30 and concentrate on what you want in life. That's the real law of attraction, because you can have anything. It's here. It's now. Like the brain doesn't know the difference between the true and the false. Just like the brain doesn't know the difference between pharmaceutical drugs and street drugs.
Yeah.
So we can create that reality if we know how, until the energy picks it up and things start attracting to you. But that's not the case. Well, I can see loads of things now, Rob. No, they've always been there. You're at that vibration level and that mentality level that now you see them. You can pick and choose whatever you want, guys, as long as the golden rule. Keep helping people. Don't get too cocky and compliment 3 people every day. You can have all of this as long as you stay on channel 30.
Talk about complimenting 3 people a day.
You don't know what people are going through, okay? So the guy comes out of his apartment, he walks to the Golden Gate Bridge and he throws himself off and he commits suicide. The police drag him out of the water hours later. They find his identity. They go back to his apartment looking for next of kin. What they get there is a letter on the kitchen table. And it says, I'm going to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge and throw myself off and commit suicide. Unless on the way there, somebody smiles, says good morning, waves at me, thumbs up, whatever, and I will stop there, I'll turn around, and I'll try again tomorrow. How many people have you walked past today who's heading to that Golden Gate Bridge? So when you compliment, there's a couple of things happen. First of all, dopamine is released into your brain and dopamine is released into their brain. Everybody's going through something. And if you don't think this works, guys, try this for me. Next time you're in a built-up area of people, watch for somebody coming toward you with sneakers are always the best, with nice sneakers. And as he walks up to you, say 2 words, nice sneakers. He's going to say, probably, oh, thank you, man. Turn around, watch him walk away. He's going to look down at his sneakers at least 2 or 3 times. You just change his world. But guess what? When he goes on to his girlfriend or his wife, because he's in a good mood, now she's in a good mood. Then the mother-in-law calls, she's in a good mood. 2 words. 2 words, you just changed the world, because everybody is going through something.
Yeah.
And a smile is the difference between the Golden Gate Bridge and the apartment.
There's another one that I've heard you talk about, and it's related to rewiring the neural pathways. And it's something that we can do for ourselves. So, of course, anybody that really, truly needs and is ready should reach out and work with you guys. Obviously, there are a lot of people that won't be able to do that, won't have access to do that. What are some things that people can do in their own house to sort of break that pattern of pathways? And I heard you give an example that you could do in the morning.
Smiling now. You're smiling because you know.
Because I loved it. When I heard it, I was like, that's a good one. That's because, I've heard the concept, but that was a really good example. Talk to my audience about that.
So normal circadian sleep pattern between the hours of 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning is when the body is at most repair. It's also when the oxygen is low. The presence of oxygen equals the lack of disease. Every disease in the body, including cancer, grows and starts off in a hypoxic area of the body. So when we wake up, the subconscious brain thrives in no oxygen. It thrives in that hypoxic area. So we're low on oxygen when we wake up. So if we carry on through the day with that lack of oxygen, we're not going to have a great day. We're not going to achieve anything. So The idea is to take in as much oxygen when you wake up. So we do 20 exaggerated breaths in and out. And, as quick as you can, in and out.
So take 20 exaggerated breaths as fast as we can. So then what happens?
You'll go dizzy, but the blood is banging through every cell in your body. So what happens is the subconscious brain wakes us up. This is the guy that's never going to achieve anything. This is the guy that's angry. This is the guy that is going to, this is the guy, man. But when we do the breath work, the teeth work, if you're right-handed, brush your teeth for a week with the left, go back to right, do the left, just for a month.
Okay, wait, let me break that down. So after the 20 quick breaths, you want us to alternate from using our dominant hand to brush our teeth to a less dominant hand and rotate for a month back and forth.
And then do the mirror work, which is I love you 10 times in the mirror. Sounds stupid? No other affirmations. We're filling the subconscious brain. But make sure you stand 6 feet away from the mirror, because when we get close up, we see all our blemishes. We think the world sees us like that, but they don't. So when you stand 6 foot away, all your blemishes go. If you do that every morning and walk out the door with a positive mindset, you will have an amazing day. It's just the way it is. If you say to yourself in the morning, it's going to be a terrible day, you're right. If you say in the morning, it's going to be a fantastic day, you're right. So by just doing them 3 things first thing in the morning, you change that pathways. You're starting to, especially with the mirror work and the teeth work, you start to rewire your own brain away from the self-sabotaging neural pathways. And this is what happens. Subconscious brain, the bad guy in the morning. We do the breath work and everything we talked about, and all of a sudden that guy's dead for the day. That guy's dead for 24 hours because the brain resets every 24 hours, not all of it, 3 parts, that's all. Now you're running from the conscious brain. This is the now. This is every decision you make will turn to gold. No trauma, no past, you're a waste of time, you're a piece of crap, you never amount. No, conscious brain is now. That's the channel 30. We go through the day, we have an amazing day. But have a guess who wakes you up tomorrow? It's this guy again. So that's why the 24 hours of time is not an AA thing. It goes way before that. And latest we found out is because resets are done in the brain. Why wouldn't they be? It's so complex. So you can literally have a great day and achieve every single day. And there's where the trauma comes in. Well, Dad said, stop that, guys. Go and get that repaired. Go and get the hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and the amygdala repaired. That's what we do here. There's not many people can do it out there for you. They want to sell you something or do something or think, or go therapy for 3 years. What? When do you think it was going to start working? Well, I've been taking antidepressants for like 10 years. When do you think it's going to kick in? You're sat in my reception telling me you're depressed, but you're taking medication. When's it going to kick in? People need depression pills. People need all sorts of medication. I'm not saying don't take it. Just say it. If you suffer from depression, what's the first thing we do? We tell our partner. They tell us to go to the doctor. Okay, and he gives us an SSRI or SSNRI, and there's a false serotonin, and we start taking that. So here's what happens. I'm taking the false serotonin to make me feel kind of okay. What happens is my own serotonin starts to deplete. Now I've got to depend on this guy for the rest of my life. So why isn't anybody asking the question before you even go to the doctor? Is why is my serotonin low in the first place? Because if you're going to the doctor that's giving you all kind of medication to make you feel better, and he's not asking about your diet, about what food you're in, about your training regime, about how much sun do you get, about the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins that need to happen every day, if he's not asking them questions, guess what? You have a high-paid drug dealer.
Yeah. And that a whole nother topic, whole nother show, but that's why I think functional medicine's really popping up everywhere.
Oh, definitely. I really quick, I was diagnosed with, not diagnosed, but they said to me quite blatantly, Rob, you've got to go for a biopsy. There's a good chance you have cancer. It's big, It's horrible. But I was on this regime a couple of months ago that was a health thing, vitamins and stuff like that. And when I went and they took the biopsy, the results came back and I don't have cancer. There are things you can take away from the pharmaceutical companies that want to keep you sick that 100% work. 100%.
Yeah, it's not as easily accessible. So that's the thing. You have to really go out of your way to make sure you bring it into your life.
Yeah, I mean, we're programmed to, the doctor knows best.
Yeah.
Wrong. The doctor knows about addiction.
Yeah.
Definitely wrong. There's no classes on addiction or alcoholism in medical school, believe me.
Yeah.
And we're programmed to take pills. 90% of people in America are on pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, come on, it's a multi-trillion-dollar business.
Absolutely. And you really have to do your own research and be your own advocate, regardless of what's going on. Such a great conversation. And I really hate to do this, but I want to be respectful of your time.
We're on for another 5 hours.
Well, that would be amazing. But I'm going to try to keep it much, much shorter than that as we wrap up. What would you say to the person that's dealing with a decision right now? Their spouse is going through addiction and, back and forth with recovery, but not quite making it. I mean, what would you say to that wife? You had that wife. I don't know. What would you say to them?
So let's look at addiction. You're taking it, you don't want to take it, blah, blah, blah. The first thing you do is start dialogue with your husband. In that serious dialogue, you sit down and say, you have to admit and you have to realize, surely you have a drink problem or a drug problem. If he says, I do, I need help, problem solved. But if he says he doesn't, and he comes home one night, just one night, and raises his hand to you, you get them kids and you get out of the house as quick as possible. Now, people freak out when I say that. Get them kids and get out. I need to kill my wife. I need to kill my kids, not me, the disease. So that's what you got to do. Get help. I only work with 4 people every 3 months, and they're usually, A-list celebrities, just because I'm in that world now. But we have 5 offices around the world. We have, 60, 70 therapists, and I'm sure we can help. I never go on a podcast to promote my business. We don't need it, but we'll get somebody who can help you. But yeah, help is out there, but just do your homework, guys. If you call the treatment, you don't know. You're trusting this 22-year-old girl with no addiction and alcoholism experience answering your phone and giving you advice. I'm talking to therapists there. I'm talking to psychologists and psychiatrists. If you have no experience and not been through it yourself, stop it. You can't help me. Well, I went to college for 5. I don't care if you went to college for 100 years in addiction. You don't know what I would do to you if you had a bottle of vodka behind your back and I wanted it. You would be aghast at what I would do to get that. But now, if you don't know that, you can't help. So just do your homework. Make sure the place, or come to us. We'll find somebody for you, not with us, but a good person, because this is life or death to you guys. If you want to change it, and again, just this way it goes. Girls, if you want to try and stay and change your husband, I'm sorry, that's never going to work. If you plan any man before your children, I have nothing to say about that. Your children need to be safe. You need to be safe. Give him 2 or 3 chances and then move out until he's ready to do it. Some people never are. But as human beings, we stay in relationships way too long, in abusive relationships way too long, because we're patterned. It's a comfort zone. And of course, guys are worse at this. Nobody will ever have you. You have 2 kids. You'll never find anybody as good as me. Wrong. Coming from a guy full of fear who can't stop drinking and using and knows he's a piece of crap. Wrong. Okay, so don't believe that stuff. Get to safety and see what he does with that. There's nothing better than getting out of the house with the children to make a man go, I need to do something about it.
Agree. But they have to be ready. They have to want it.
Once a man says, I'm going to do something about it, all bets are off. He's going to recover. And he's going to be the best father and the best husband in the world. Because that's what we do when we get well. We're very attentive. We love people. I would give anybody the shirt off my back. I always do. I bless people monetary every time I leave the house because I'm blessed like that. You want to do keeping the safe at home. What the people gave me money was on the streets, Marianne, and it saved my life. So start the dialogue, make a phone call or 2. If you want to message me on Facebook, Dr. Robb Kelly, DRROBB, 2 B's, KLOY. Come and find me. I will get my wife to talk to you all day long, especially if you're a wife with young children. I put my children in too much pain. My daughters still gets therapy from what I did. I just want to help other people, man. This is not about the money. I get paid off other people who can afford it, but the average person on the street who can't afford, just call me, call us. We've got something for you.
It's really evident to me the level of pain that you still feel for what you caused your children, and I'm sure your ex-wife as well. It's also really clear to me that you come at this with authenticity and a real passion for helping people. As you said, I've done my homework and I've seen you. I mean, you're on the big shows. You are working with the big folks out there that we would go, ooh, if we saw them or whatever. And yet you agreed to talk to me, and you've agreed to talk to other people that, we're not so famous. We're just out there trying to get the word out to a smaller group of people. But yet you showed up and you give it your all because this is your passion now.
100%. I could have retired years ago. But, Courtney, my girl, she's my media director. She goes out. And the idea is, I don't care if they got one viewer or 1 billion views. Like, I'm on Joe Rogan in a couple of months' time. It makes no difference to me. It's just another podcast. But when she comes back and she goes, hey, I found this Marianne, this lady that you need to talk to. And I used to go, well, how many followers did you got? Like 10 years ago. Just go, okay, Courtney, thank you. Thank you for introducing us tonight. Because I'll tell you something, this has probably been the best podcast I've done for years.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
Because you're answering the right questions, you present beautiful, you're well-spoken, you're quiet, you get the point over you, and you drag out of me or any guest the truth of what they're all about. Most people want to know who the celebrities are, how much I'm worth. That's never not the questions that I need to answer. The question is, well, when I go to heaven, because I believe there's a heaven, whether you believe or not, this is my story. So when I get to heaven, Marion, do you know something? When I open and I stand in front of God, do you know one question he isn't going to ask me? He isn't going to ask me how much was that house and car, and how much was that watch you were wearing, that Rolex solid gold. How much was that, Rob? You done well. He's going to ask me one question. Mm-hmm. How many people did you help?
Yeah. And it's not about how much money they have or who they are. It's about how many. Love that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will put all your links out there so people can get in touch with you. Also, I didn't mention it, but you did write a book in 2019, Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. Obviously, that came from the quote from your daughter. And just want to mention that for folks to go out.
I've never had a podcast like you that comes on and knows all about it. Thank you for the research. Most people are like, can you tell me what you do? And I'm like, oh, again. But listen, I want to say two things before I go. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if I can do anything for you, let me know. But secondly, there is a book. That's a picture of me drunk out of my face with my daughter. It's called Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. It's on Amazon. Don't buy it off Amazon. It's $10. Don't buy it there. Come find us. Don't make ROBB. So it's ROBBKLOI.com is the website. Come and message us on it. I'll sign it and send you a free copy. I'll also pay for all the shipping and stuff like that. Okay, so that's one thing I want to say. The other thing I want to say, if you're that person or you're that wife or you're that alcoholic who's sat in that one-bedroom apartment and with no furniture and everybody's left you and your wife's left you and you can't see your kids, 214-600-0210 is my personal cell phone number. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to text that number, okay? Now, obviously, I'm crazy busy, but when I see that text, I'm going to text you back. And we're going to arrange a 20-minute with me conversation with you that will change your life, okay? In 20 minutes. I will change your life in 20 minutes. If I don't, I'm going to send you $100 for wasting your time.
Good offer.
Good offer. Yeah.
Good offer. I'm just going to say it for those that could think it. It's not going to be a sales pitch, guys.
Oh, God, no. Oh, my goodness, no. Yeah. No, we're a multi-million-dollar company. No, I would never do that. I would never. The only thing I do push is the RobbKellyFoundation.org. Give me $1 if you have it. And free books for everybody. And a phone number, say, come and help me. But no, you'll never get another phone call after I've called you, and we'll never, ever take you on, unfortunately, because we're not here.
But it could save your life.
It will save your life. I promise you guys, it will save your life. I will have you feeling as if you're a champion in 20 minutes.
Love that. Thank you for that offer. Thank you for talking to me, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.